Waziri, good morning. Thank you for joining us today.
Good morning. I've been talking illegally.
No, not illegally.
Good morning and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Miriam.
Mariam, yes.
Mariam,
Yes.
yes. And Happy New Year to Kenyans.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming back. Happy New Year to you as well. As Eric said, unakaa poa. And we'll talk about kama ni kuna pesa around. You know, pesa ndio inakuanga sabuni ya roho ya kila kitu. We're talking money matters today with Cabinet Secretary for Treasury, that's John Mbadi. Let's talk about privatization, right? Value or question mark. Value question mark. That's what we're discussing.
Is it value or money? Are we going for value or are we just going for money?
And is money not
Let's start
value?
with a quote for the day.
That's right. I'll share the quote of the day with you, Waziri. Usually Jano would do it, as you know, but she's away. Today our quote comes from Kwame Nkrumah, Ghana's first prime minister. He served from 1957 and then became president in 1960. He was speaking in Accra in Ghana in 1965. He was warning about neocolonialism. He said, "A country that cannot control its economy cannot control its destiny." A country that cannot control its economy cannot control its destiny.
That's correct. That is, I agree with him absolutely. Actually, one of the ways to lose your independence is to lose economic independence. When you depend on other economies to run your economy, it becomes problematic because they will dictate to you.
True.
Whoever pays the piper calls the shot.
Very true.
Are we at that point? That's Kenya.
In Kenya. Well, I can't say that we are absolutely at that point, but Kenya, to some extent, we are burdened with the debt, but we can pay. Secondly, I think we can now run our economy without over-reliance on bilaterals and other countries to fund us, and even multilaterals. That Kenya is reaching a point as an economy we can go to the market as any other economy. So we just need to tweak and work on a few things, and then we'll be in the trajectory where we don't go to IMF, we don't go to World Bank. If we have to go to World Bank, we'll be going to World Bank as equal partners, where they need where to invest their money, and we also need resources to invest.
So
but we are moving towards that.
So we are getting
stage.
out of that point that that Kwame Nkrumah had said.
Exactly.
We were at a point where we were dependent on others.
Exactly.
We had lost our economy.
Exactly. And you lose your independence, by the way.
So for how long were we in that hole?
For long? How long?
How long were we in this hole where we lost, we lost our economy, lost our independence?
It is cyclical. Remember, we were at this stage, even though we were not receiving resources from IMF, World Bank during Moi era, but our economy was in tatters. I mean, there was nothing to be proud of. Our infrastructure was not fixed for a very long time, dilapidated. We had difficulty, even in the salaries were low of the public servants, and so it was a terrible moment, even though we were not borrowing much from these other countries. But again, we had no economy to speak to. Now, come Kibaki, and I think some improvements, and we got out of IMF, remember, during Kibaki's reign.
Right.
And even though we were getting funding from China and the other bilaterals, but it was at arm's length transaction where you had the power to negotiate. And then during Uhuru's time, I think again we slipped quite a lot and overburdened ourselves to the extent now we had to go back and run to IMF for bailout. And now in this administration, we are just coming out of that situation.
Okay. Tell me a bit about the structural adjustment programs of the 90s.
Yes.
And what necessitated them.
The structural adjustments were necessitated by our inability to run our economy, I would say, because that was a time when for us, first, there was a pressure on democracy. And that was the time of the collapse of the Cold War. So we moved from two competing superpowers to one superpower. And then they enforced democracy, which I think was a good thing. And then later, now, we needed help. And when you need help, conditions come with it. And one of the conditions was that we had to go through radical structural adjustments. We had to right size. That is the word that we were using.
Right size.
Right size. They were not calling it down size.
Okay.
But
Right
right size
size.
our public service and civil service. And so it was very painful, by the way. Some people who had barely worked, like Mariam, I don't know how long you have worked, but you find some people had just worked for 4 years. And I was, by the way, working in a state corporation then, and we were involved in carrying out the retrenchment process. So you look at the people you have been working with, and now you are making a decision on their fate, whether to remain in office or to go home.
Right.
And it was a very painful process, I must say. So it was not a time that one would want this country to get back to.
Right.
But we almost found ourselves there. Let me tell you,
I was just about to say, are we?
We almost found ourselves there because remember, IMF in 2021 categorized six countries, so six economies in Africa, and said that these 6 economies will default in debt repayments. Kenya was one of them, and 5 have actually defaulted. We have Ethiopia, we have Ghana, we have Gambia, we have got Chad. So all these countries have defaulted. Kenya has not. What would have been the implications of default? If we defaulted, clearly we would have been asked to do those adjustments.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we would have been asked to do was to take pay cuts, the public servants to take pay cuts. And when public servants take pay cuts, the private sector will do the same, because where will you get the capacity and power to stimulate demand in the economy? And they would have insisted in reducing the size of the public service, of the civil servants, and many others that come with economies which have failed to honor their obligations. And it wouldn't have been something to cheer as a country. And that's why we had to really work hard as a government to run away or escape that. And we fortunately escaped it. I must say fortunately, because to me it was like a miracle in 2024 for the markets to open for us to manage liability. But then we learned. And having learned, in last year, we decided to be pragmatic. That is 2025. So 2025, if you noticed, we went to the market early enough to manage the liability that was falling due in 2027 by May. And then in September, we decided to go a step further and do the 2028. If we behaved like the previous government, we would have said 2028 will be after election. But we decided to do it regardless of who wins the 2027 election. I still believe very strongly, and my confidence increases by the day, that we will win this election again and come back to power. But even if something had to happen and someone comes in, that administration should find our functioning economy. And that is the thinking trajectory of this government.
Okay. And the last time you were here, we were talking about the need to raise funds, to look at other ways of raising funds. In fact, even the president has been saying we need to find ways of raising our own money in other ways instead of just going back to the market to borrow, which was the justification for privatization. At the point you were saying we have divested from Safaricom, we've sold some shares to our other big partner, and that matter is now before Parliament. People are taking presentations. This week you launched the Kenya Pipeline IPO. Again, another thing that you talked about, privatization as a way of the government raising money. 11.8 billion shares in the market, and so on and so forth. Starting off, the commentary that I've seen from some business quarters and business people who are business analysts is the valuation for this company is a bit steep. At 9 bob, you're basically saying that price per equity ratio is about 22%. So people are saying, how do you arrive at this? So how do you arrive at the 9 shillings share offer?
You know, it's a very complicated accounting process because we use international financial reporting standards to value assets. And then, so I will tell you that has been done. But let me just try to allay the fears of those who think that the price of Safaricom is high. Actually, there are people who will...
Kenya Pipeline.
Kenya Pipeline. I usually talk about Safaricom because it is the one that I've been dealing with for long. So you'll forgive me. But
no worries.
I'm referring to the KPC. Now, KPC's price, there are also people who think it is underpriced or undervalued. But a lot of people also think it's overvalued, that 9 shillings is a bit higher compared to the asset. But now, let me be clear, Eric. When you are valuing an asset like KPC, there are a number of considerations to take. You have to take into consideration the business environment and the future and the cash flow. So there are a lot of things. First, you look at the profitability. The company has been profitable for quite some time and clearly shows signs of continued profitability. Making 20% of revenue as a percentage of after-tax profit is not a mean achievement. Secondly, the company has a future, because apart from the transporting the petroleum products, and you can see it is diversifying. You can see in fiber optics, it's the biggest player, and many people don't know that a lot of this, including Safaricom, uses the fiber optics of KPC. So that is one indicator that it has a future. This is a company of tomorrow. Secondly, one of the reasons why you'd find international investors shying away from investing in a company is when the business of that company is conducted largely in local currency. For KPC, it is the opposite. KPC's revenue is largely in hard currency, and that motivates the international players. And so, for international players, I'll tell you, this is a very attractive investment. But now you have to find a balance, strike a balance. If you put the price too high, because the international players would see 9 shillings as a low price, and then there is also the local market you have to think about. So we had to balance the two and arrive at a price that takes care. You don't undervalue for one segment so much, and you don't overvalue for another segment. And 9 shillings has been arrived at a very reasonable price. And I am sure it is a price that if you take, you go to the market and buy shares, you'll not regret. It is a safe way of investing your money.
Okay. When 9 shillings per share, we're talking about this IPO and how much of it is for Kenyans or for, yes, retail investors, but also specifically how much is to remain in Kenya.
Yes.
What was the reasoning behind that, and what percentage?
First of all, IPO is supposed to deepen. One of the reasons why we list, or rather bring more public assets into the Nairobi Securities Exchange is to develop the capital market. There is a clear connection. There is intrinsic correlation or connection between economic development and capital development of a country. And I'm sure you're aware that NSE is one of the most developed capital markets in Africa.
In Africa, that's true.
In terms of capitalization, we are now, after this year, last year it was reported, we are just behind Egypt in Africa. So you need to bring in more assets into that market. And when you're bringing in more assets into the market, you need to think about the local investment as you also attract foreign investment. So we looked at the balance. Of course, the government of Kenya is still retaining 35%.
Yeah.
But this 65%, we decided that a lot of it should still remain within our economy for our people to invest, because we want to open space, bring in another set, another option for more domestic investors. And by the way, we are having a very robust capital market. We have many players. Our pension funds are doing very well. Look at the NSSF. Their balance sheet is improving by the day, especially after the changes that were made in terms of contribution. Look at the PSSF, which has just picked up how much they are receiving. They need where to invest this money, and not just government paper, bonds, bills, etc. Because we are going to lower, especially with the National Infrastructure Fund, we are going to reduce our debt uptake, and therefore they need where to invest their money. And of course, we have other mutual funds, we have insurance funds, companies. So that we need to give more money to Kenyans, both individual and institutional. That is why we decided that this 65%, 5%, of course, it is a traditional practice that you give the staff who have been sweating and giving their all in the company.
Okay, I didn't know it's tradition when doing an IPO.
Yes.
Okay.
To give
5% to staff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like if we were to do IPO, assuming, Nation Media Group was a public
Was a government
entity, we would first give you some chance to own a piece of it because
Right.
you have spent a lot of your time, and energy in running and making it profitable. So 5% goes to the staff, 15% goes to oil marketing companies, and the reason is simple: these are serious stakeholders because this is a logistics company that facilitates transportation of petroleum products. You'd want the people who use it more to own a piece of it, and therefore they would have that motivation to be loyal to it. And then now 20% we give to Latif, myself, and yourself, the Kenyans, to invest. Those who have money to put in investment, 20%. We thought was appropriate, and that's about 13%. That will be 13% of the whole company, and then the other 20% we are giving to the institutional investors, the mutual funds, the insurance companies, the pension funds, and then we must be good neighbors. Again, KPC serves
The region.
The region,
the
yeah.
region. I will be in Uganda next week just to speak to them around KPC. Rwanda, we must visit Rwanda. KPC will accesses Uganda, Rwanda, and all the way to Central African Republic. And so we must allow them also to have a piece here. So we have designated 20% of that ownership, which will be 13% of the whole company, going to our neighbors in the region. And finally, we must also attract foreign investment, direct foreign investment, by allowing them to own 20%, which is 13% of the whole company, 20% of the 65%. So that is the spread. And I think it's a fair spread.
If you look at it that way, it looks fair in terms of saying that a majority of this is then to be owned by locals, and local here we mean Kenyan and neighbors.
Yes.
And then foreigners beyond the EAC remain with that 13% stake in the bigger company.
Correct.
Okay, that could be fair. Let's discuss further on this after this break. It's 28 minutes after 7. We are hosting John Mbadi, the Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury. We are talking about privatization. This push for privatization, is the government going... The government is hungry for money. It needs money today to operate. So is it being guided by money, or is it going for the value? Is it more for value, or is it more for money? That's a conversation that's been there in the public debate. We're asking John Mbadi that question. If you've got any question, X, it's at NTV Kenya, Facebook, NTV Kenya, YouTube, NTV Kenya. Send in your questions. Back in a moment.
Getting back into conversation with CS Mbadi, but before that, a few of your comments from the internets.
Yep. Rose Tata says, tell us about the share split, 1 to 1,000. And Francis Moyo picks up on that. If you split the share 1 to 1,000, this means the profit made once spread across all shares, you'll pocket cents. So make sure you buy bulk if you're to buy. He'll tell us about that and what they're talking about. Francis continues, after you receive this money, will it not be subjected to paying debt as first charge? In simple terms, when one's debt normally sells when one is in debt, they normally sell his or her set chicken, pig, rabbits. In this case, with the government of Kenya, you're selling your assets to pay debt. Joy says, KRA has missed revenue targets by 140 billion in the half year, and this money being obtained is to plug in revenue gaps and budget deficits. Next year, watauza nini to get money? And Son of Kronos says, we are made to understand that GOK is selling its shares in pipeline to raise money for government, and not that KPC is selling shares to raise money for expansion. Sema Safaricom. Ama nimekosea? Let's start with this new one. I mean, I think it's a bit straightforward. It's government selling money, selling its stake in Safaricom to raise money, and not pipeline doing a shareholders call to raise money for its operations.
Eric, I don't know whether that good Kenyan even understands what KPC is all about. KPC is a public entity. It's a government-owned, 100%.
Yep.
So there is no way KPC can sell anything, shares, because it's not a private company. This is a government company. So the person who can sell shares is the owner.
It's the owner
of the shares. And the government owns shares 100%. So if you hear the shares of KPC is being sold, it is the government selling the shares. Actually, it is the CS National Treasury. I am the shareholder, single shareholder in KPC on behalf of the people of Kenya. So what my friend there is saying does not actually really make sense, or there is no difference, because there can't be any shares to be sold by KPC. But you see, once you privatize KPC, raising capital to expand becomes easier, because the bureaucracies that are involved in government operations disappear with it. And now you bring in the private sector efficiency. And that's one of the reasons why you need to bring private players into such commercial companies, commercial ventures. Because if they're entirely government-owned, then they are run with the bureaucratic systems of government.
Yes.
So
before you move on to the next question on that one,
right.
Yes, the bureaucratic inefficiencies of government are slow and painful. The private efficiencies of the private sector are expensive as well. So what does that mean for us going forward? I'm looking at a situation where investors will buy in, institutional, retail, foreign, all of them. They'll come in and they will soon want to see return on their investments, or they will, put in money and again, they will expect to see return on their investments. Then for the people of Kenya, that leaves us with a bill at the end of the day, right? With KPC's services getting more expensive.
Far from it. I don't think return on investment is a factor of price only. There are a lot of factors that play into return on investment, one of which is efficiency in running and expenditure. You realize that when it is a government-owned entity, there are a lot of inefficiencies, a lot of wastages, including sometimes when you do the contracting, you don't have the business mindset, because you are working for the government and you are in the procuring entity, and you more or less make decisions, some of which may not be in the best interest of the company, because you have to do it anyway. But when you are in the private space, private sector space, now you are motivated by asking yourself, if I buy at this cost, is it making business sense? So there's that commercial nature, the commercial mindset that comes and kicks in, and you'll find that the running costs comes down. And if the running cost comes down, the price, regardless of what happens to the price, you'll still make better profits than before. And again, our regulatory framework still remains. So exploiting Kenyans is not an option here. Actually, many people have been asking whether after privatizing KPC, then the prices of petroleum products will go up. It cannot go up, because we still have the regulatory framework. EPRA is still determining the pricing, and there are other players in the market which are going to ensure that the regulatory framework is complied with. Kenya has one of the robust regulatory frameworks. We have the Competition Authority, we have EPRA, we have this farm now will be listed in the Nairobi Securities Exchange, and there will be the Capital Markets Authority. We have all these players here making sure that KPC behaves. And again, government is still owning 35% shareholding, which is significant enough to make decision. In fact, we are still going to remain as the single largest shareholder. So all these fears around price adjustments and all that. By the way, KPC does not sell petroleum products. They just transport,
they transport
petroleum products.
But if the cost of transport
is likely not to go up, because what I've said, there will still be regulatory framework. There will still be the issue of cutting cost instead of raising prices. Because really there would be no justification for increasing prices.
Okay. You've answered David Warui. was asking what ironclad mechanisms are in place to ensure the private profit maximization does not lead to inflationary tolls,
Yes,
and that's hiking prices. You
Oh,
said
exactly.
the regulatory framework is solid,
Yes.
government being the single largest shareholder, with understanding energy as a critical component
Yes.
of the economy. You'll also be having a role to play here.
Right.
The other one is just coming to explain again, because you have, and it appears that you have to continue explaining this, Waziri, until the cows come home. You are raising money with this divestiture of Safaricom and this one from Kenya Pipeline. Okay? Where is this money going? Ni pesa ya kulipa watu mshahara ya February.
Yeah, actually, one of our listeners or viewers has actually asked whether we are going to use this money to pay debt.
Yes.
And KRA has missed target. Let me be very categorical here and clear. We have said, and I want to repeat it, that this is the money that we are going to raise out of the divestiture, either in KPC or offloading more shares in Safaricom. The money is not going to be used to fund 2025-2026 budget. It's not going to be used to fund 2026-2027 budget or any other budget. This money is going to be put into the National Infrastructure Fund, the bulk of it, about 90%. National Infrastructure Fund will then be used to leverage and crowd in the private sector funding into commercially viable public infrastructure projects.
Yeah.
And that is the bottom line. And we have a list already which has been generated, and state departments are generating list of commercially viable projects that we can fund through National Infrastructure Fund. A portion of it, say about 10%, will go into sovereign wealth funds for the future generation. Again, the sovereign wealth fund can only be invested in 3 areas, or can only be applied in 3 areas. One, again, is infrastructure development. 2, it will be there for intergenerational wealth or intergenerational equity to provide money for the future generation. And lastly, it is for stabilization of the economy. In the event that we get a shock like what we had during COVID, and there is no international community to come through for us, we should have some resources to be able to take care of such shocks. So National Infrastructure Fund, how it will work, and I think this is what many people don't understand, and I don't blame them because it's a technical area that we need to explain. The National Infrastructure Fund, once it is set, what it will do is that we will come up with these infrastructure projects that are commercially viable.
Right.
And if you allow me time, I can mention a few of them that have already been identified.
We can, do
Yes.
that a bit later.
But once you identify a project, and I've given this example of JKIA, if we want to fund it through this model, and the costs of the project is about 200 billion, then you can decide that a portion of that, say 25%, which is a quarter, is let's say 50 billion, will be equity finance.
Right.
And the rest you can get through loan financing and such arrangement. And then you say 60% of the equity comes from the National Infrastructure Fund, which is government. That will be 30 billion. And the rest can come to the private sector. So the government will be telling private sector, here is the project, it has this return. Once it is complete, it will take this number of years to pay back, and this is the revenue flow stream. You do a design, you do all that assessment, and you put it out there. And you say, as a government, we are putting 30 billion. Now, we are asking Mariam and any other person who has money to come in.
Yeah.
Then you do a project which could have taken money from our budget, where we would have borrowed money, we would have gone to the market to borrow money to do JKIA and take 30 years to repay, and yet the loans are short term.
Yeah.
Most loans are 5 years to 10 years. It would be a strain in our economy. But if you bring investors who have a long-term view, most investors want to put their money where they can recoup their investment even over 30 years. So that is what we want to do with this fund. It is not for consumption. This is for asset investment. It's like we are converting one asset to another asset, and also an asset that can spur economic growth into the economy. So it is optimizing use of assets, if I may use that word as a finance expert.
Right.
We are trying to optimize our asset, mature assets. These are called mature assets. And if I find time, I will lecture you on what a mature asset means.
Okay.
So that's what I would say. And to answer all our friends who have asked, this money is not going to be used to fund our budget. So yes, we have fiscal strain. That's a fact. But we are not going to directly use this money to pay debts, to pay salaries. In a sense, how it is going to help us manage our debt, our budget, is that once we take these infrastructure projects to the National Infrastructure Fund, we will remove them from our budget. And that will create a space for us in the budget now to fund health, to fund education, and to fund other recurrent expenditure and even other development which are not commercially viable.
Do you have an example that you can give of a country that has done this?
Yeah.
You can say, X country needed to build this kind of infrastructure, and they used their funds this way.
By the way, almost all countries that have developed, this is what they do.
Give us one.
I'll tell you.
One project.
I will tell you. For example, if you take the case which has been given on Norway, Norway has a sovereign wealth fund.
Yes, a very good one.
And that sovereign wealth fund is not just developing projects, infrastructure projects in Norway, across the globe. Actually, Norway now as a country can run its budget without taxing their people almost forever because they have the resources. Even Saudi Arabia, but that is from sovereign wealth fund. These countries had the advantage that they are, because they have the advantage of having natural resources, which we may not be having in Kenya. But the difference is not there. It is the same. If you can get money from natural resources, or you can get money from your mature assets, and you fund. Take the case of country like China, for example. China has institutions which are so established, and these institutions are the ones that make resources available. Of course, there is hedging, there is a blending by government-owned institutions. Like when you talk about Exim Bank of China, what is it all about? Exim Bank was set up by government funds. You talk about China Development Bank. But these banks now are leveraging. These banks are helping investment in public infrastructure. And they have even gone out globally to help in other countries. Who knows? If this, our infrastructure fund, in future, maybe not in our generation, but in future, if it is well established, we will go out into the region and develop infrastructure in other regions and get money, get paid, and the country can run even without taxing its citizens.
In a very ideal scenario, but then I have
it's not ideal. You know, let me tell you, Mariam.
Only if it's done right.
Let me tell you.
Only if it's done
those
right.
countries which have reached where they have reached, they started.
I agree.
Yes. And by the way, the people who started
Yes.
never even witnessed or enjoyed the benefits of their sweat.
Agreed.
It is for another generation.
You know where the gap is for us? It's not about the potential here. It's about the how, right? And if we do it right.
It's a trust.
It's a trust, the deficit that plagues us.
Do you have a reason not to trust me?
Not to trust you. No, I have no reason not to trust you. But I don't think you're the only player in this entire on the field. So let me start with the ring fencing of it, right? How exactly is this money ring fenced to bolster public trust that indeed this is going to the National Infrastructure Fund? And the Infrastructure Fund itself, how are we assured that it will do what it is meant to do? It will not be co-opted into something else. We'll not hear 2, 3, 5 years from now about, the infrastructure bond. I mean, the infrastructure scandal. You know how it goes here. The trust.
You see, I understand you, Mariam, but I think it is important that we sat back as Kenyans and ask ourselves, why is it that we distrust ourselves this much? That we believe that there's nothing we can do right. And by the way, yes, Kenyans could be corrupt, but do we stop doing things because we are corrupt?
No.
We must work on that lack of integrity among our people, among our public servants, and among majority of us, and not all. There are Kenyans who have high integrity, recognized even worldwide. Actually, I will tell you, Kenya has some of the best staff in the world when we work out there. Look at people who are developing the economy. If you go to Dubai, most of the banks and financial institutions are run by Kenyans. You go to Saudi Arabia
Hotels,
and many others. So Kenyans are we have the best, if not in the whole of the continent of Africa, the best human capital. But yes, we have had challenges with integrity and all that. Now, how do we safeguard? How do we protect this? That's why number one is to make pronouncement, and which we have done publicly. The president has done it, and severally. So I have also communicated that this money is not going to be applied in the normal running of our budget, as it were. So we have already gone a step further to form a company, which is a limited liability company, that is National Infrastructure Fund. As we speak now, we are putting together the legislative framework so that even when we leave office, those who are coming in, unless they change the laws, will not apply this money differently. That the money must go into National Infrastructure Fund. Presently, the money will go into Consolidated Fund, but for it to leave Consolidated Fund, it must be appropriated by the National Assembly into this fund. And once it is in this fund, it can only be applied for infrastructure development in commercially viable public infrastructure project, not just any infrastructure project. Because an infrastructure project that is not commercially viable will not help us sustain and have this fund for perpetuity. So right now we are putting the legal framework in place to make sure that even when Mariam becomes president and you become rogue, then unless you get the people's representatives, which we cannot do anything about, Eric, because if people's representatives decide to change the law, but for us, we want to put a legal framework to make sure that this money is only for infrastructure, and not just any other infrastructure, but those which are commercially viable.
What's the threshold for commercially viable?
The threshold is that you must demonstrate through proper analysis, and you must clearly do give us the plan, the design, and all financial analysis that this is going to pay. For example, Expressway was done by CRBC. For them to do the Expressway, they did the math and determined that it would be able to pay back. So already various, and I will just give you examples, under the road sector, for example, the Mau Summit through Eldoret to Malava and through Kisumu have been flagged out as one of those roads that can be commercially viable, that can pay back if they are tolled.
If they're toll roads.
We have Nairobi Thika Marua Road that can be dualled and tolled. We have Athi River Namanga that can be dual and tolled. We have Mombasa Malindi can be dual and tolled. Those are roads that have already been picked, and many others are coming. So there must be proper assessment, proper evaluation, proper costing, for any project to qualify to be funded through National Infrastructure Fund. Under energy sector, actually energy sector is one area which is, especially in generation of energy, of power and transmission. Those two areas, distribution is not profitable, but these two are commercially viable. So there are a number of projects that have been identified under the energy sector, which fall under the category of commercially viable projects. You can see just the other day, Africa 50 through PPP got in 2 Kappa project in this country. It is commercially viable, and many of them are like that. The other area is the transport sector. JKIA can pay for itself. We know that if we expand it and do it properly and appropriately. So that is an area, that is a project that will go here. And finally is the irrigation.
Okay.
Irrigation, we have identified many dams that can be done, and we use it for irrigation and power generation. Those two can pay. And for example, Galana Kulalu, and I've been there, and I saw
we have harvested on the 1,500 acres. Do you know how many bags each acre produces? Between 30 and 35. If you take the lower of 30 and they do planting twice a year, that is 60 per acre. And the dam, if we do the dam, which will cost us about 40 billion marks, it will be able to irrigate over 200,000 acres. 200,000 times 60 is 12 million bags. What is the maize shortage or need of this country? Between 10 and 15 million bags. So Galana Kulalu alone can ensure and guarantee food sufficiency in this country. For the country.
Yes. I lost my train of... but pending the legal framework, this money goes into the consolidated fund and then?
So, once it goes into the consolidated fund, the company is already in place.
Oh, okay.
So the National Assembly will appropriate the money into the National Infrastructure Fund automatically. The legal framework that we are putting in place now is to, A, make sure that the money, once in the consolidated fund, is not applied anyhow, that it becomes automatic, that it goes into the National Infrastructure Fund. Two, we are also trying to split how much goes to Sovereign Wealth Fund and how much goes into National Infrastructure Fund. Our thinking as a government is a split of about 90-10. But all of it, 90 should go to National Infrastructure Fund, 10 to Sovereign Wealth Fund, 0 to budget support. Yes, that is the thinking of government, and we are not going to change that.
It is for future, it's for investing in long-term future.
In long-term, and funding our budget indirectly.
Okay.
Yes.
You know, I wish you'd see many of the comments that come in here, Waziri, and whenever you speak, even when you go to, and I've seen you're doing this, you're going to meetings, even on the ground, and you stand up and say, well, let me explain this to you. The feeling, the sentiment is, okay, you sound very good, Mbadi, you look like you really mean well, but you're not alone. This is the government. And governments, we have seen, we have gone through government trauma, and we have lived through it. There's a question that is, how does this government intend to start restoring public confidence in government? Not in the William Ruto administration, but in the government of the Republic of Kenya, because people have a problem with the government of the Republic of Kenya in totality. Remove this one, bring in another one. But let's take a break. You come and respond to that, plus many more questions that are coming in. In the next hour, we also now expand and go into Safaricom. We've seen some of the presentations in Parliament. Was it undervalued? Have we left money on the table and gone elsewhere? Let's also talk about the economy and how you're managing the economy.
That's for the Safaricom.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll talk about how you're managing the economy. County governor saying, tutafunga county, no money. Maybe delays in payments and so on and so forth. All this coming up in the next hour. You can continue posting your questions on YouTube, NTV Kenya, and also on Facebook, NTV Kenya, X NTV Kenya. John Mbadi, the Minister, the Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury and Planning, is our guest. It's 2 minutes to 8. Of it. So are we getting value for money, or are we just going after money? Because John Mbadi is looking at, my God, I need to develop the airport and these roads, and I've been told, don't go to the market for debt. So are you just looking for, ni pesa ngapi, uko na ngapi, lete? Or are you saying, this is the worth of my cow? Kama hauna 70,000 shillings, tembea. Kubwa kubwa, kanyanga kubwa kubwa. Kanyanga kubwa kubwa, as they say. Now, that's a question that was asked earlier. Let's even get, as we were getting to the break, we talked about public trust and public confidence. We'll come and respond to that as we sum it up. Safaricom, the matter is now before Parliament. Many stakeholders have made their presentations. The Law Society of Kenya, the Kenya Bankers Association, the Central Bank of Kenya, individuals, including Ndindi Nyoro, who was there, and he said, I still hold that this is a very profitable and viable entity, and what the government has gotten out of this deal is way below value. You have engaged Ndindi Nyoro publicly on this particular matter more than once. He has put it on record in Parliament. He is not shying away from it. He's saying, I think there was more that we could get out of this if we had even approached another way. Split this company, sell the various entities individually. Another one, come into the market, let the market tell you how much they can buy. But just having this conversation behind the tent with with another shareholder didn't give us value. Respond.
You know, today I want to be a bit kind to my friend, former colleague, Ndindi Nyoro. Actually, I challenged him that we meet at the committee, and he decided not to. He said he wanted his own day. That would have provided a perfect opportunity for him as a member of National Assembly, who is oversighting me, to ask me questions and I respond to. But asking me questions where I don't, where in my absence is like a gossip. But let me leave that for a moment. You see, there are various ways of valuing assets and valuing shares. And as a finance expert, that is one area I was taught properly. Under corporate finance, accounting for assets, and I did so many courses around share valuation and pricing and the valuation of an entity as a going concern. So if Ndindi Nyoro was to be fair to Kenyans, he would have brought a valuation method that he used to determine that the price of Safaricom shares were undervalued. You can't just come with street talks. You know, when it comes to valuing shares, it's not like selling fish or selling waru. It is something that clearly is dictated in the Nairobi Securities Exchange. It is listed, and there are various valuation methods. And we have explained the valuation method that our advisors used to advise us, and we negotiated. And this is a block sale. And by the way, that is the advantage of a block sale, that you can get prices higher than the market price. The market price of shares of Safaricom is out there. Around this time is about 28, 29. It's hovering around there. And the valuers took the 6 months average. So you see, and that gave us a figure, which figure there was a premium to it, and we arrived at 34. And that premium came about because the investor who is coming in is an investor who is not new, already holds 40%. Right. And this 15% is giving them 55%. And that allows them to take some more risk, as opposed to if you were to invite another investor who is going to hold only 15%. Who is this investor who would give you a very high price beyond the market price of a share and is only holding 15%.
Right.
So giving it to an investor who already has 40% would allow you space to take advantage and leverage on the benefits of understanding the business environment and the benefits of having higher shareholding in the company. And that is why we realized 34. If we took this to the market as they are proposing, and by the way, competition is not a guarantee that you will get the best. In fact, competition may give you the least.
Less, true.
Because now, you see, if we go into the market and we invite other players and then they quote 27, 26, 23, 20, how would you expect now to go back and start negotiating afresh with this strategic partner, the Vodacom? So I don't understand, unless someone comes out with clear valuation method, which is giving a higher figure, and not relying on that there was a time the price was 41, and we know very well that the market signals and what was communicated into the market that time was that we were expanding into Ethiopia. Safaricom was expanding into Ethiopia, and therefore, you know, markets, the way market dynamics work is that there is that communication, that information that is released, and how it is interpreted by investors, and they respond. But finally, when the Safaricom went into the Ethiopian market and everything stabilized, we know where the prices are. So let me say that we have got the best value out of this transaction, in my view.
Okay.
And let's treat what Ndindi Nyoro is saying simply as politics.
And you explained it the last time fairly well. Just before, Eric, did you want to continue on that thread? Okay.
Because there are other entities that have made their presentations before Parliament. And several of them are saying, all right, you could go ahead and have a discussion with Vodacom and then also Vodafone. Vodafone, not Vodafone. Is it Vodafone or Vodacom?
I can both. I can explain to you. The difference is that the parent company is Vodafone UK, which has a subsidiary called Vodacom, South
Vodacom.
Africa. Then that's Vodacom, South Africa has invested in Kenya
In
through
Safaricom.
as Vodafone Kenya.
Vodafone Kenya.
Now that is what owns the Safaricom PLC.
Vodafone Kenya,
Vodafone Kenya.
which is owned by Vodacom South Africa.
Yes, which is
Which
owned by Vodafone
UK.
UK.
I know. That's where the confusion comes
Yeah.
in. All right. So, Law Society of Kenya was among those that made the submission. They said, how about you actually split this divestiture, bring part of it to the market, to the Nairobi Securities Exchange. The NSE made a submission with the same. How about you bring some of that, float some of that here? The Kenya Bankers Association, the Kenya Association of Stockbrokers, all of them are saying, split this, bring it, one to Vodafone Kenya, and the other to the public. Stockbrokers were saying, go ahead with the 15% to Vodafone Kenya, but float an extra 5% to
the
the
public.
market. LSK is saying the entire 15%, bring it to the market. Kenya Bankers are saying, split it and bring part of it to the market. Basically, all of them are saying, how about allowing the market to participate?
Is it
All
because
of
the
them-
market won't pay 34 bob a share?
All of them have a point, only that probably they need to listen to professional advice from some of us. LSK, I would start with. You know, if you split it, what we are giving out to the market, the 15%, if you split it, first, you will have to agree that Vodafone or Vodacom will give you less price. Because the moment you give them less shareholding,
Yeah.
the negotiation comes down. So that is number one. Number two, you put it into the market, it will be dictated by market forces, and you will not get beyond the market price. In fact, you will take a discount because there will be oversupply. So that is number two. Number three, we already have KPC going into the market. Competing for the same resources now with Safaricom going into the market is not strategic because we have the same pool of investors. We have the individuals, we have the institutional investors. We will be putting KPC and Safaricom competing for the same resources. It is not wise. It's not prudent. So that is why we say we made a decision as a government, because both are our shares, that we take KPC to the market and allow Kenyans, through initial public offer, to own KPC. Safaricom already we have shareholding of Kenyans significantly. Have it retain the same shareholding of the public and give this to this strategic investor. And by the way, asking us to release another 5% is not a bad idea, but we have to be timely in the way. You need also not to saturate the market with the same class of shares. So we are going to strategically look if there will be need going forward to offload more shares, we will. And by the way, why is it that this 15% is causing so much concern? Remember, President Moi released 40% at almost nothing to the market. President Kibaki in 2008 released how much percent? 25%, and collected 50 billion. We are releasing 15% to collect 204 billion. And by the way,
value question again, because that 15% is a lot more valuable.
Yes,
than the
of course,
35.
times have also passed.
Yes.
But remember, when President Kibaki made the decision to have initial public offer in Kenya, it boosted this economy.
It did.
It made significant boost on the economy. That's something that people are not talking about. They just say Kibaki managed the economy better. And when we are trying to do some of the things that were done then there is objection. So I will tell you, yes, the split, those who are suggesting, those are ideas, good ideas, but we have a reason.
Yeah.
We have a very good
And
reason
you've
why.
given us the reasoning.
Yes.
Let me make it big picture because, yes, it's always nice to have these conversations with you because we break it down and again, the logic is sound, right? You can't fault it. Then you now look at it big picture from above and Safaricom offloading 15% here. Okay. And you come, we talk, we have a conversation, makes sense, fantastic, it's great value, everybody wins. Then KPC. So the bigger, it's like you have a chicken coop, and of the 3 egg-laying hens, you're selling 2. That, again, is still quite a big concern. And let me start with KPC. as a strategic asset, diluting the government control of it as a strategic asset. It's a question that's like, okay, you know what, 35% still belongs to government, fair. 65% will now be foreign investors, retail investors, institutional investors, all these other people. Again, it's a very strategic asset. Same to Safaricom. You're right. It was first taken to market a long time ago, but over time, we've consistently diluted government involvement. It's hard not to see a worry there. All the geese that lay the golden eggs are being sold off one by one.
First of all, I want to dissuade you from this terminology of selling. No one is selling anything here. We are divesting.
Divesting. Okay.
Yes, and allowing, democratizing ownership, like for KPC. We are bringing you Kenyans to own your company and have a say in it. What's wrong with that? How does it stop being strategic? Because
80%
actually, what
of
we are
the
doing,
oil and gas that goes through Kenya goes through Kenya Pipeline Company. Yes. I think it is important, like for something as important to national security, to the economy, that government has some level of involvement and control. And I know you'll say there's still a 35%, which is true, but this is a huge divestiture.
You know, if we were to reason that way, the government would not divest, and the government would be running all businesses. And that's not the work of government.
Only strategic
Like even
was
KCB, before it was privatized, everybody was saying a strategic bank for the government. We privatized it. It's still strategic. It's still doing its work. I mean, Kenyan financial market is even more robust. Let me tell you. This terminology strategic are for people who just don't want us to move and privatize.
Okay.
Safaricom, KPC will still remain strategic for Kenyans. The government is still holding 35%. But even if we were to own less, there is the regulatory framework which guards or guides running of business in this country. We have the competition authority. Even if there is another competitor who comes in to invest in transportation of oil in terms of pipeline, no one stops them from doing so. Let them come and compete with KPC. In fact, competition is healthy. So there is nothing that is going to be compromised around here. People have talked about Safaricom.
That's what I'm saying about, like, individually, we talk about, that's what I'm saying. We talk about Safaricom, we talk about KPC, and they make sense. But when you look at it from a larger picture, it seems government is essentially on a privatizing spree for the infrastructure fund, all of that. But it does feel like it's diluting a lot of critical national infrastructure and assets for...
Mariam, again, I want to persuade you. That is why from 2009, you know, a cabinet paper was presented before cabinet of President Kibaki in 2009. And they approved for the privatization of KPC. These arguments is what stalled us up to now. How many years later? 17.
Almost 20, yeah. 17.
Yeah, 17 years later. Now, the bottom line is Kenyans for a long time have talked about privatizing KPC. But because of these, I want to be very kind to you, not to call it pedestrian. But, but anyway,
no, you can call
I've
it
called it.
If it is pedestrian, you can call it pedestrian.
The point is that government is not supposed to be in business. Government can only be in business for good reasons. And in this case, we don't see that good reason.
Okay.
We feel the private sector can run this company better, or involvement of private sector is going to optimize the value of this company. And we have reasons. Take, for example, people have been arguing about our security of our data in Safaricom. What about Airtel? Doesn't Airtel have our data?
It does.
Is the data not secure? Airtel is foreign-owned 100%. Now, if our data is safe with Airtel, what has made our data be safe with Airtel? Is it shareholding? No, far from it. It is the regulatory framework. The government has two powerful tools: policy making, exclusive mandate of government, and regulatory framework, exclusive mandate of government. We don't need any other power. You don't need shareholding. All companies that operate in this country, we have control as a government, unless we don't want to. And two, in terms of making money, I have heard people say, this is the goose that lays the what?
The golden egg.
The golden egg. Yes, fine. They're making profit. Safaricom has been making profit. Remember, even when we privatized Safaricom, it was making profit.
Yeah.
But was it making the profit the same way it is making today when we have lesser shareholding? What makes us think that if we release it even more, and in a space that requires capital investment, it will not make even bigger profits? Further, government needs not to take dividends. Dividend is not the work of government. This dividend is not the return that government should be waiting for. Governments should be allowing private sector to invest, do business in an environment that is facilitated through regulatory framework and policy decisions, make huge profits, pay us taxes, and keep their dividends. If anything, do you know government has the first charge on every money that you make, whether you run a kiosk? We own like almost over 30%. So why do we again come and compete with the private sector? So we were calling it privatization spree. I wish I could privatize everything at a go, but we can't do it. We have to be strategic and do it systematically. And I will tell you here today, we will privatize more. Kenyans should privatize more of these assets and allow the private sector to bring efficiency. We get money, put into these funds, develop our economy, and have a functioning economy, rather than keeping some shares here, which gives National Treasury and line ministries the power to appoint board of directors who are politicians wale wameanguka, wanawekwa hapo, they don't have any management skills, and yet they're the ones we rely on to run commercially viable enterprises. Allow private sector to come in, run these enterprises in more profitable ways.
I'd like to, as we conclude on the issue of the privatization and then move into current economy issues and how you're running the ministry, there's still the issue that was raised by several of the presentations, and we have the bite here by Ndindi Nyoro on the proposal to, how about if you had split this company? Basically, I think many of these conversations are coming to say, at the point of your thinking, maybe you should have thought this way. We may have passed this because you've already had, the market already knows that the government is selling, and this is how much one investor had offered you. So, if I'm coming to offer you, I'm going to offer you slightly higher or push for you to give me a discount. But let's listen to Ndindi Nyoro. One of the other reasons that you talked about is, how about if you split this company and then see if you can get more value from the different entities? Listen.
Things we have already promised the buyer. We have told them, you buy us out, you'll pay half the license fee. Half the license fee in terms of billions of shillings. Money enough to make basic education in Kenya free today. We have in a transaction a person meeting our buyers informally, and the same people also do business with the buyers. And as they say so, Chairman, I know exactly what I'm saying. Even the people who I am referring to, they know. So I'd want to get a list from the time this transaction started, the inception, which is the committee that has been handling this transaction on the side of government. Who are these individuals? So that we run away from this blanket issue of saying government, yet the people we are calling government are actually not government.
So he says you know exactly what he's asking, right? And he's saying, first of all, who are these people who were negotiating on behalf of government, and whose interest did they have? Did they have the interest of the people of Kenya, or did they have other interests that they were representing there, purporting to be the people of Kenya, number one? And number two, how else could we have made money out of Safaricom?
According to the rules of parliament, because when you appear before a committee of parliament, the standing orders of the National Assembly or the Senate guides the way you make your submission and presentation. And if you make an allegation, there's a requirement that you justify and substantiate. And if I were the chair of the committee or the chairs of the committee, they would have asked Ndindi Nyoro to substantiate. In the event he was not able to, he should have withdrawn and apologized. But he didn't substantiate and did not mention anyone that he thinks was involved in this negotiation who shouldn't have been there. Is asking for transaction advisor. The transaction advisor here was KCB Capital. And we all know who Kenya Commercial Bank is. So which is this monkey business that is trying to purport that KCB did? You know, sometimes when we want to score, make political scores, we should choose where and not in the market environment. And I thought Ndindi Nyoro is someone who has been investing in the Nairobi Securities Exchange. I have seen him make a few coins here and there in the Kenya pipeline, Kenya Power and Lighting. And by the way, you should remember that if we did not privatize Kenya Power and Lighting, he would have not made the money that he made. So he should be thankful for privatization. And I don't know why he's stopping other Kenyans. I think he has been rich. He has made his riches. He doesn't want other Kenyans to make their money. Mariam, don't listen to him. You have not made your money through other investment. Do invest in KPC. And so now, on the transaction cost that he's talking about, he knows the threshold that the law says you should not charge more than 1.8%. How much has KCB charged? About 1.3%. So what is this problem there? And by the way, we must have transaction advisors. In the event we didn't, the question would today be, who advised you?
How transparent?
How did you know? How transparent? Now you get an advisor, transaction advisor, someone known. If we got some nondescript, some unknown entity, they will be asking, how did you source for this? And by the way, we sourced for KCB and the documents are there. And I'm going to submit the documents to Parliament. They have asked me to submit how we procured KCB. So sometimes I find it a bit difficult to respond to Ndindi. And that's why I was saying, I wish, instead of making himself a witness for reasons I don't know, he should have sat in the committee, because the law allows, the standing orders allow, that you can ask the committee to appear as a friend of the committee. And then he would sit there with his notes.
And ask you the questions.
And ask me the questions. And I would have addressed them. I don't fear addressing Ndindi Nyoro. He is my junior. I know he went to KU and did some, I don't know what he did, but maybe some economics.
And
did he
now
do
he has,
economics?
he has 2 masters.
Which he got in same year. I'm wondering how you can read for 2 masters in 1 year. But anyway, that's now for him. How he got his master's, his degree, I also got mine in different ways. So, but the bottom line is, if he understands, and I believe he does, why is he confusing Kenyans? Is it to make himself big politically? And remember, this same Ndindi Nyoro is the one who advised Uhuru Kenyatta when he was in Tanga Group to sell Safaricom. Actually, he used the word sell. You could play that clip. He said, sell. And that time he was saying the valuation of Safaricom was 300 billion, I think something. No, KPC, he said, was 300 billion, which now is even higher than that.
Okay. Just hold that thought. Let's go on a short break. We'll be right back and we'll go into a few other issues. Taifa Leo front page inasema IEBC Mesota. We have a lot of things to discuss with the CS for Treasury. That's John Mbadi. Hashtag is Fixing the Nation NTV. We'll be right back after this. Back in conversation with CS Mbadi. But before that, there's so many comments on YouTube, on Facebook. Where to begin? Maybe nianze na YouTube. Okay. Charles Ndungu says, on Ndindi Nyoro, be today speaking and during the previous government, I concur with you, CS Mbadi, because it seems he agrees or disagrees depending on the side he supports. But so do all politicians. MN8645 says, the problem with politicians is attacking the man and not the argument. The crux of the matter is the valuation. KPC, in my opinion, has no valuation report, which is unheard of and suspect in my view. Okay. Robert Ndegwa says, yes, there is a huge trust deficit between Kenyans and the government, but then again, records show that privatization boosts the economy. The companies even turn out to be more profitable. Abti says, historia shares the government na private shareholders ndio inaleta shida kubwa sana. For example, Kenya Airways, sijai kuona ikibeba mtu lift, but kila time iko kwa loss, unlike Ethiopian Airlines. Okay, sijalewa hiyo, but what is Mobitelea? Someone is asking if you were a house member during the debate of Mobitelea.
Mobitelea was some fictitious shareholder that came out.
I was still not in the house.
Okay.
There was that was before Safaricom went into the market.
Okay.
During Moi era, I think.
Yeah, I think that many of these comments, Waziri, as you're seeing, are basically on the same. It's rotating around the same.
But this
you will have to
valuation,
keep
the
answering this
valuation
question.
report, I think I want to respond to the valuation report. Why does it think there's no valuation report? Do you know?
They're saying they haven't
has issued, because he doesn't want to buy. Let him go and read the memorandum. We released it, the memorandum. Just go and read. And again, we have even engaged PricewaterhouseCoopers, which has done a report besides the Auditor General's report on KPC. PricewaterhouseCoopers did again audit just to ascertain for issuance of IPO. We had to do it. Yes.
So let's talk about budget and how you're running budget in terms of just expenditure and the expenditure pressures and questions around prudent financial management. There's an application that's been made by the IEBC, Mariam.
Right.
We were looking at it earlier in the Taifa Leo.
Yeah, it is on the front page of the Taifa Leo. 2027 IEBC ya SOTA. Kuna nukuu hapa kutoka Erastus Edung Ethekon, anasema madeni haya yamekuwa yakiongezeka kwa muda na yataathiri shughuli za tume kuendesha uchaguzi mkuu wa 2027. The story goes on to say Tume huru ya uchaguzi imeonya kuwa pengo la bilioni 13 katika bajeti ya uchaguzi mkuu wa 2027 itaathiri pakubwa maandalizi ya tume hiyo, kulingana na stakabadhi wakiwasilishwa katika bunge la kitaifa. Haya yalibainika huku wabunge wakishinikiza kutekelezwa kwa hazina ya IEBC kama inavyotakiwa kisheria, ili kuimarisha uhuru wa kifedha wa tume na kuifanya iache kutegemea utoaji wa fedha wa hiari kutoka Wizara ya Fedha. So yes, the IEBC says they cannot be depending on what almost feels like, you know, if Treasury feels like they will give us. And they have a 13 billion shilling gap as far as 2027 elections are concerned.
First of all, let me be clear that democracy has a cost, and a country like ours, which is democratic, cannot function without a functioning electoral body. And so we need an electoral body, IEBC, which is efficient, that is facilitated well enough to discharge its mandate. And that is exactly what we are doing. And we have, over the years, financed or facilitated IEBC. Although it should also be appreciated that IEBC is not operating in a vacuum. We are in a country where we know we have a tight fiscal space. So I am sure IEBC is also trying to pitch, because we are in that stage of budget process where every department, every ministry, every agency is trying to justify why they need more resources. And IEBC is perfectly doing what they should do. I am sure they will present their request through the relevant channel, that is National Assembly, through the Oversighting Committee, which is Justice and Legal Affairs, which look at the envelope that we have given to that sector and appropriate allocate money. From the National Treasury point of view, we will make resources available to the level we can. And as I conclude, I also want to ask IEBC to improve on efficiency and cut on costs, because we are running one of the most expensive elections in the world.
Yeah.
And that cannot continue. So IEBC should not continue with the historical facts. And
but you can see they're in a tight position as well, because if they don't do, like, whether it's the paper, security paper, what do you call it? The vote, the ballot, but the security features on the ballot paper itself, I forget the name. Whether it's that or the kits or everything else, if they do choose to spend less on any of those things, you know how it will go. IEBC has been compromised.
Have you read the book of the former chairman of IEBC, Isaac Hassan?
No, I haven't.
If you read it, then you'd agree with me that there's a lot that needs to be done at the IEBC. By just making a decision, if what he says is correct, they cut on cost on printing papers by more than 60%. So, well, you can still guarantee the safety and security and credibility of our electoral process without spending too much. The costing, are there deals that are being cut or these prices are fair. So those are things that we need to look at. I am just asking IEBC to realize that we are in a tight fiscal space at the moment, and we don't have money that we can finance everything that we want. So whatever little that we get, we must use them efficiently, prudently, and get value out of our shillings. Why many countries are running credible elections in the world, but are they spending?
But those countries trust their institutions. That's the
trust
difference.
issue, I keep
Yeah, but again, even with all this expenditure, we still have trust questions every election.
True.
So what is the what is the
I
point?
always argue
What is the
that
point?
the ordinary voter does not have an issue with IEBC. The ordinary voter queued in Kasipul the other day and they voted, right? The ordinary voter queued in Mbadi North and all the other places, they voted. We are okay. It is where it comes to some certain quarters in which we have got to question at some point ourselves, who is this who brings in the issue and elevates the issue of credibility and trust and pressure on IEBC, and therefore IEBC has to do all these things to try and create a level of confidence, which we still end up not having. Supposedly, all the money that is given to IEBC, 80% is spent locally. The billions that we're talking about is spent locally. On who? Who ends up? So IEBC pays. Who ends up receiving all this money? I mean, Waziri, you've been in this game for a while.
I agree with you.
Why can we justify this high expenditure by the IEBC on an election?
Beginning with the legal fees and many others. I will tell you, a lot of costs can be cut by IEBC. But I also agree with you that the trust deficit is with the elites. And sometimes this trust deficit is probably not informed by facts. So there are two players here. Both of them need to work on this matter of trust deficit. One is the IEBC. Through action and comments and whatever you say, like I read that book, and you can see the former chairman is regretting some of the pronouncements that he made, including when he went to Supreme Court and said, through his lawyer, he said, the lawyer wrote that without asking him, that Raila is a perennial loser. You cannot be a referee who makes judgment of players, that this player keeps on falling down, even when he doesn't have the ball. So that I'm happy that he's acknowledging and accepting some of the mistakes. And we have made these mistakes, the electoral body has made. We need to minimize such mistakes and try to portray IEBC as truly independent, because that is why that I is there. But also the political players. Like, look what, when these by-elections, you find someone just making wild allegations. And many, and even us, we have done it on our side. So let me not appear like I'm an Anju, or I come from a political side that is clean or as white as snow. But let us remember that when you cast aspersions on the electoral body, on the electoral process, it has consequences. There are people who believe in us. Like when one leader says, run to such a place, they are stealing votes. You go there, youth. So what, in a sense, are you telling youth to go and do? To go and invade, fight, beat electoral official? And that is chaos. And we cannot run a country like that. If there is a credible justification or doubts, raise them. And we have raised them. And there are clearly cases sometimes of doubts. But I think we need to start rebuilding confidence in these institutions, beginning with how this commission has come into office. I still think that we have not got it right, because we still have issues, who appoints the commissioners and all that. And if you get it wrong at the appointment stage, highly unlikely that people will believe the outcome, even if it is, if those people work very well.
Solution: keep politicians as far away from IEBC as possible.
But how would you do that?
That's that we shall think about.
That is the question. How do you,
intelligent
the best...
if we keep politicians out of this conversation, we'll come up with a solution.
The opposite. Some people think the opposite, that sometimes involve them as much as possible.
But like, what has happened.
Like what happened with the IPP.
People talk about IPPG having given us, credibility of some sort. But there were questions that were raised by the losers in that election, the 1997 election. election.
No, the IPPG actually
Came after 97.
Yes.
Right? And
2002.
then, the 2002 election, were it not for the fact that the opposition came together.
Yes.
If we had gone into, let's say, the LDP wing had their own candidate, the NAK wing had their own candidate, KANU had their candidate, Orengo was there, Nyachai was there.
Charity Ngilu.
would have had
No, maybe
issues.
the best thing you would have said, Eric, is that the win was overwhelming.
Yes.
Because we have had, even in the last election, we had only two sides.
Smaller margins.
Yeah.
Yes, just like 2002, when we had two competing, serious competing
But
bodies.
yeah, if the margin was
Orengo,
small-
by the way, did not join the opposition in 2002.
He was his own
He was in
candidate.
his own
He was a
small
candidate.
outfit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, we
but
have,
there were two clearly serious candidates.
not thanks to IEBC, but thanks to everything else.
No, but again,
Not thanks to
if they
IPPG.
decided to bungle the election,
They could have.
haven't we seen elections where you clearly think the opposition can win, and then you end up with the government declaring that they have won?
Okay, so let me ask another
we can
question.
credit that to Kivuitu Commission then.
Yeah. Which again, let's...
And Kivuitu
Many
Commission
questions.
conducted also a credible referendum, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, in 2005.
Yeah.
Which was very competitive, but they conducted a credible referendum. Only that 2007, some flip up, maybe because it was a close contest as well. Yeah.
The other question I want to ask, and we have a few minutes to conclude on this one, is on your current state of running the budget. Are you cash strained at present?
Eric, I think if you were to be fair to the current administration and even National Treasury under my watch, you'd say probably this is the best time in a long period of time in terms of cash flow in this country and cash management. Look at areas which require funding. And I know counties have talked about, I wish I knew we were going to discuss this. I would have carried as up to 21st of January, the balances that counties have in their CRF account, which they have not utilized. And I have a category, each county, in
How
fact,
many
some,
counties have something left?
in fact, the only county which had nothing was Nairobi. There are some with, and we gave them money for December. They have now money. There are other counties which had a lower percentage, like 10, 15. We decided to release, including my county, Homa Bay. I saw it had only 13% of a monthly allocation. And we are monitoring this every day. But the whole of this week, we are releasing money to counties for December. All right? So there's no cash crunch. We are releasing money for December for even counties which have
Outside
2
of
months.
schedule.
Including,
Outside of legal schedule.
but when
released by 15th.
you see, Latif, that is what is intended. But let me tell you, we have challenges in this country, and it's not new. In fact, for the first time since the advent of devolution, I think, last year we crossed the year from 2025, we crossed the year with a nil balance for counties, and we intend to do the same in this financial year. Something about CDF, for example, we have released over 30 billion out of 58. And last financial year, we crossed the year with 0. And we are releasing now 5.3 billion every month. By June, we are done. The same with capitation. Capitation, all along you have had, we are in January and schools are saying they have not even received a coin. Have you heard that again this year?
They've
the
received
50%
for this year.
The 50% in the budget is released 100%.
But they still have balances from last year.
Not last year. We
They
have
do.
no balance for last year. Mariam, what schools are demanding from us are balances from the time I was in parliament. There
Is
were
that
no
what
the
they are?
money.
Because when you speak to
I will
them,
tell
they
you,
say
you
that
can
they
check.
have capitation
You can
balance
check the
from
budget
last
of
year.
2024-25. The entire budget was released to schools.
The point is that there's still some pending money
They
that has
have-
not been released. Whether it's for
Well,
last
the pending
year
money
or the previous
is
financial year.
the pending money that they're talking about were not released in previous financial years, and those budgets were concluded. I have no money in the budget unless again
What's the plan?
Parliament decides to revote the money again into the budget. You know, I
What's
can
the
only
fix?
spend.
Because they have, as you have no money, but they also are operating on debt because they do.
Mariam,
They owe suppliers. They owe other
That
people.
is the
Spending
problem
bills.
of failure to enforce budgets in those previous years. But I'm dealing.
But it has
as
landed on
I
your
am
desk
I
now.
am the minister now.
Yes.
I have been given a budget, and I have released the entire budgetary allocation. What else do you have for me?
That's saying that now they can go to their creditors and their their suppliers and tell them, shika hii pesa ya January hadi for this year.
What I am repeating.
Deni, sahau deni.
What I want to repeat, I am the CS National Treasury. CS National Treasury spends the budget, allocated. Once I've spent that budget, finished. If I have not released any money, hold me to it. The entire money that is in the budget, released.
But what's the plan?
Cleverly answered. But this CS Treasury has also come in and found pending bills in government.
Yes.
And he and others in cabinet have devised a way of addressing the pending bills.
Correct.
Previously.
Yes.
So what is the plan for the
The
pending bills?
plan for the pending
schools?
bills is, that is one thing we are looking at in the next budget. We have pending bills in various sectors. The road sectors, we devised a plan and we have cleared all the bills. For your information, all the bills from 2005 to 2024 December
For
were
roads.
all cleared for roads. We are now even paying up to September of last year. Meaning, if there is any certificate for road construction which will not have been paid, should be only October, November, December last year and January this year. So that is how well we are doing in the road sector. The other sectors, we have already got a report of about 155 billion shilling for other pending bills. So this is what now we are working as a government. I will present a cabinet memorandum on how to pay this, settle these bills.
Okay.
And also there are bills, some dating back to 2005.
This
But
includes
this,
the schools.
this government, no. The schools is a different story, because the schools are talking about budgetary allocation.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
the pending bills.
So
It's
what
it
do
is
you
up-
do
it-
with the unmet budgetary allocations, which they had used?
That's another conversation. I think the ministry, the relevant ministry can discuss that with us. But it will require budgetary allocation. Budgetary allocation is different from pending bills. It is like saying, I told you, you will spend this much. And by the way, all ministries,
I get that. I'm using pending bills here to mean these schools have pending bills. It's not
can
but-
I just explain to you
Okay.
that almost all ministries sometimes have their budgets not funded 100%. It doesn't translate into a pending bill automatically. Okay? It is just that the budget has not been financed. And so,
that's okay for other ministries.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I know we're running out of time. But for schools, essentially, even the figure of 22,000 shillings per year per child it's a stretch. So if it's not given fully, then you can see how they're unable to meet their their requirements, their whatever, all that they need that money for.
actually, that issue we have addressed before, and I agree that the figure, the amount that we are putting in the budget for over the years has not been sufficient. And that's why we are working to adjust our budget. And that is why we want to start this National Infrastructure Fund, to take away these infrastructure projects from our budget so that we avail money to fund our education. We must agree that we need to put more money into education. And that is a perfect observation. We need to make sure that the money that is required per child is actually allocated for the child.
Yeah. As the CS for the National Treasury, your job is to expend money as allocated as appropriated by Parliament. The control of budget is the one that then sees is the check from Treasury to expenditure. She has taken reports to Parliament, and constantly she is required to take reports to Parliament. This latest one, she has also raised concerns about the over expenditure by some departments of government. State House, for example, has surpassed already its allocation for the half year. And she has also raised concern about the use of Article 223 of the Constitution, which allows that the government can spend money for an emerging need and then go to Parliament to seek approval after spending it. And she's saying there is a continuing trend that very very emerging needs are coming for expenditure, which is likely to overshoot our budget.
Well, I think the Controller of Budget has done her job, which is to report to Parliament and give indications on how budget implementation is taking shape. That is a requirement in the Constitution, and I appreciate her for that. Secondly, it is also true that there are expenditure pressures on the government, and that we need. And by the way, I control a lot. I provide a lot of checks and and breaks on their appetite for spending. I wish you saw, or you are able to see the kind of requests that I get, almost to $1 trillion additional. But I end up approving about 50 billion, like I've approved under Article 223. So that is a correct observation, and I'm speaking to government generally while we are in the cabinet and many other fora, and even the president speaks to our ministers and PSS, that we need to realize that we don't have enough resources. The fiscal space is constrained. But again, there are certain things that you cannot run away from. Like when you have pressures as a result of funding to universities, the lecturers are on strike, and our children are at home, you...
But this one is more State House.
She's not raising concerns about those.
Yeah.
State House. Why is State House spending more?
No, I will tell you all this.
Yeah.
What she has said about surpassing the budget, half-year budget of State House. By the way, there is no law that bars any entity from surpassing 50%. This 50% is a guide, is a break that we are applying. Yeah, but you have the entire budget. You can even choose to spend it the first month, so long as you're not asking us for more money. If State House decides to ask to offload, or rather spend their money earlier, there's nothing wrong with that. By the way, it is not just State House. There are so many departments,
other entities,
like education.
Is
the
this
budget
asking to spend the money earlier or extra spending outside
No,
of the
she's
allocated?
talked about surpassing the 50% mark. You know what we do as a guide and to control expenditure and also to control our cash flow, because money has to be received uniformly throughout the year. There is no money that is sitting somewhere and
in a big tranche, and then
yeah,
you
so
give
it comes every month. So we say 50%. By December, you should have only spent 50%. If you are spending more, we will not allow you unless you request.
And
many...
We are running out of
no,
time.
let me just explain
I
that.
want to jump here and say
I know.
Yeah.
there's history, right? In the last financial year, did we end up spending more for State House than had initially been approved in June 2024? Are we therefore seeing a likelihood of, by the close of this financial year, the amount of money that Parliament had appropriated the State House will have overshot that?
Yeah, that is likely.
Why?
Because we underprovided. In 2024, we know the situation that was operating in this country, and everybody, we cut budget almost to a level that it was not manageable. Can I tell you something? I came into office,
What
and I
critical
found...
things are happening at State House
I-
that require
that were
that
not
much
foreseen.
money?
I
which were
found...
not foreseen?
just a
What
minute.
critical things are happening at State House?
I found a budget where even personal emoluments were reduced. And even State House, we have personal emoluments. People who are working there. We have State House repairs being done. Yeah, that is our State House. We must repair it. We cannot have a State House that leaks like it was left. And we have people coming to State House, my friend.
When
You know,
schools are still dealing with the pending bills from capitation of years far gone.
even State
then-
House
but
has
we have-
pending bills.
No, but you're talking about repairs right
Everybody has pending bills.
now. Yes, but some are
So
more
you want
important
the
than
State
others.
House to leak because we
I would
can't...
rather State House leak than
I don't
schools
think
lack
so.
capitation.
I don't agree with
Yeah.
you. We are going to fund capitation, where we have been funding it. I think that is being sensational for nothing. Mariam, you cannot have a State House that leaks. It is a shame. Which seat of power in the world would be like that?
You're
Let us
using-
not
you're
undermine the
using-
value of State House. This is the symbol of national
State
unity.
House is
The seat
superficial
of power.
compared to health,
It
compared
is
to
not.
education. State House
It is
is
not. If
superficial
we don't
compared to health and
today, if we
education.
don't have a government and we don't have a State House, there is no country. You will not even talk about that education.
So
Let's talk
State House
about
is the
even
presidency.
health. It is all of them are priority. Education is priority. Health is priority. State House is also priority.
But some are more
It's a
important
national
than
symbol.
others.
In this country, we are making one mistake because we hate the occupant of State House. We want to scandalize State House and make it like it's a criminal scene. It's a crime scene that we should not even fund. Some people are asking why people are going to State House. One is State House. What is it there for? Is it
My point
State
is,
House for Kenyans?
When
is
we are
for
struggling
Kenyans
with
to
budget
visit.
lines for health and education, we cannot be spending excess of what was allocated to
Mariam,
renovate a
I have
house.
just added 4 billion to primary health care
Fantastic.
because it is good. Because in your mindset, it is good. you don't want to talk about it.
No,
we have
I've just
added
said
money.
fantastic.
We have added money to education. We have just released money to pay more money to pay lecturers.
And
we are
we've just
funding
talked
education.
about schools
The same way,
crumbling under debt
the same way,
from previous years.
I released more money for State House, 500 million. What is wrong? I have released money to education. I am releasing money to health. I am releasing more money to roads. We are releasing more money to security. Let me tell you, people are saying we should not spend on security. Let me ask you, if today something happens in Kenya at the coast, will we have about any tourism to talk about?
Yes, we have to close. I am not saying
I want
we
you to
shouldn't spend on
go,
security.
as you leave this station,
My only thing is,
please get out of your
spending
mind
on-
this wrong mindset that we should not fund State House. State
it's not that
House
we should
must
not
be
fund
funded.
State House. It is that it is going over its budgetary
But that is my role. That is
allocation.
why I am balancing these things and taking to Parliament, National Assembly to look. If I have added education this much, I have added health 4 billion, I am adding State House 500 million, I am adding salaries this much, I am putting money to security. Why are you singling out State House? Is it a crime scene?
Let's conclude it there. Waziri,
Yes.
finally, is there anything that has happened in State House that was unforeseen that has necessitated an extra allocation of $500 million shillings between July and December 2025? That you had
So
not-
you are reading Article
that-
223.
That had not been seen, yes.
But you are reading it selectively.
No. I'm saying, is there anything that was
Okay.
and spending outside of budget, and we have overrun by 3 minutes. So I just want you
Thank
to
you.
just
I will
settle this.
respond to you.
We are not saying do not fund State House. We are not saying do not fund education. Fund everything. But when you're budgeting, the purpose for budgeting is you're looking at this is where I expect to get money. This is how I expect to spend it. If you overrun that budget, it's because something has happened and you're like, this has caught me off guard. What is it that has caught you off guard? Between June last year and December last year that made you allocate $500 million shillings more.
You know,
State House.
Latif, it's not catching me off guard. State House requested much more money. We were not able, according to our figures, to provide the same. Health, primary health care, requested for much money. We only provided 13 billion. We have balanced our figures, and we have seen we can provide 4 billion more. It's not that it was unforeseen. It was foreseen, but we didn't see, the fiscal space didn't allow. Now we are adjusting the figures, and as a budget gets implemented, we are checking where we can cut to fund health. State House also had much more requests, but they want now. They wanted us to add the more money. They requested for way above that, but we are only able to provide so much. You are reading section 20, Article 223 selectively.
Which part am I missing?
How does it say? It says of unforeseen, or the amount provided is insufficient, or the third one, a need has arisen.
Yes.
Who decides how the need has arisen? The Constitution does not speak to it. But who does it give the power? Cabinet Secretary.
Yes.
And I exercise that power, knowing very well that I'm accountable to the people of Kenya. And I will take it to the National Assembly. So that need has arisen. No one wants to talk about it. A need can arise today.
And that's what Eric was asking.
And
what need arose?
where, and
What
it says,
need
read, if you
What
have your,
need?
read 2 to 3 and 4.
Supplementary appropriation, Article
Yeah.
223
Yes.
of the Constitution, subject to the clauses above, the national government may spend money that has not been appropriated if two conditions. A, the amount appropriated for any purpose under the Appropriation Act is insufficient.
Just stop there.
The amount is insufficient. Okay.
Yes.
Or a need has arisen for expenditure for a purpose for which no amount has been appropriated by
Yes.
that act.
So either
you had allocated money to pay rent,
which is not
but
sufficient.
it was not sufficient.
Yes.
Or you realize, oh my God, I need to live in a house.
And I left
you had
out
not,
something.
had not budgeted for
I left
rent,
out something.
And now you put money for it.
I left out
So
something.
which,
So if a need has arisen for the expenditure, you spend, for which money was not provided.
Yes.
In this case, money was provided for State House,
Okay.
but it is insufficient. Is that not the first condition? So if it is insufficient, we can provide more.
You see, it was not, the money spent has not been appropriated.
Yes.
If it is outside of budget that was passed in the Appropriations Act.
Yes.
Right? When we closed the budget last year, Waziri, by the time we were closing, the budget had shot because of use of Article 223. Money had been spent, the appropriation for certain entities was X, had been spent X plus 10. State House was one of them. Okay?
There is no money that can be spent without my approval.
Yes.
So I want you to be very clear there.
It was, your approval is only subject to the Appropriation Act. You cannot make the law. The law has been made and given to you. You've been told.
Are you reading your own act? Or
I am reading that.
Can you read Article 223? The national government can spend money that has not been appropriated.
Who appropriates? Parliament.
So the Parliament has not appropriated, but we may spend money.
Yes.
So how do we spend it?
That approval will be sought of Parliament.
Which we have sought.
Okay. So now it's the justification.
And that is the
debate.
Which we have sought.
You know very well. The debate is the justification. The justification for...
I have provided
justification. We appropriated 20 bob for Mariam.
Yes.
At the end of the financial year, we realized that John Mbadi has actually given Mariam 30 bob.
Yes.
And we asked, hey, John, why did you give Mariam 30 bob?
So in a summary, as I conclude, the bottom line is this. All the approvals that have been given under Article 223, through my ministry, we have sought approval from Parliament within the law. It must be done within 2 months. We have done that. And I don't have to report to anyone. I just seek that approval in Parliament. The law does not say what happens if the approval is not given. It's silent. 2, if you look at this year, this financial year, we have been very modest. The Article 223 has not consumed more than 50 billion. Previously, it was running into hundreds of billions. We are very, very cautious. In fact, to some extent, I remember Hechi telling me that, Mbadi, you are too careful with Article 223. I said, yes, Your Excellency. You told me to be careful with the 223. We are very careful. If it is not drought, where I've applied is Article 223, unless it is a donor-funded project. And most of the 53 I'm talking about are donor-funded projects, which are coming to a close. And it's the drought where I've put money. It is security sector. It is education. Those are the only areas. And of course, there was one payment for political party, 200 million. If you have any other thing that you think I've applied money to, which I should have not funded, tell me. I am very responsible. I'm very cautious.
John Mbadi.
And by the way, this power, Kenyans gave it to CS National Treasury without much checks. But I am applying the checks because I know I am responsible to the people of Kenya and to the president.
There are checks, actually. There's a controller of budget. Controller. But let's end it there. Waziri, thank you very much for joining us today. John Mbadi, the Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury and Economic Planning. It's been a good 2-hour conversation. We look forward to having the next one. In the next hour, we'll be talking to... No, in the next... for the next 40 minutes.
40 minutes. So. We'll be with Chief Nyamoya.
We'll be with Chief Nyamoya.
Yes.
Content for young audiences in vernacular languages. Asante sana. You want to... a parting shot?
No, in fact, I think I'm done. But you are the one who said we would finish with why there is low confidence and what we need to do. Maybe in a minute, yes. I would say I understand Kenyans perfectly well. But to build trust and confidence, 2 things must happen. A, proper communication and effective communication. And that's what we are doing at the moment, or at least from my space, I'm doing. Number 2, we must demonstrate through action that what we are saying is what we are doing. You can do what we have done. You can see what you have done in the road sector. I am very proud of the decisions we took to unlock the road sector, which had just stalled. We were construction industry. Eric, you may not be aware, was contracting early last year at 2.9%. Now it is growing at 6.7%.
Right.
I'm very, very proud of the road sector. And the decisions that we took.
Let's take that break. We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
Now, Kenyans wanunue shares KPC. Let's own KPC. Latif, have you bought